kind of hard to see, but there are images. This is exciting. When I first got the motivation to develop my own color negative film, I was a little clueless, to say the least. It was a daunting task, honestly. I'm sure many of you have probably felt that when picking up something new or trying something that's just totally brand new to you, and you're like, what am I doing? Can I make this happen? Am I gonna completely fail? You know, it's all these questions that run through your mind when you're wanting to try something new, but you're a little scared. That's kind of how I felt, but I was determined and I did it. I got online, I did a bunch of research, I asked questions both from people online and in person. I looked up what tools to purchase, what chemistry to buy, how much is it actually going to cost me? Can I make this happen? I mean, all these questions were running through my mind, but I figured it out, I got it answered, and now I've been developing my own color negative film for about a year. And I love it. And I've picked up some tips and tricks along the way that I didn't see whenever I was looking into my own research when it came to developing. I have a couple rolls of some Kodak Pro image here that I've been waiting to develop for this video. And you can see my lab box is sitting here, ready to go. I have my chemistry. So this is ECLA Surf Film. Let's get started. The first step in the process is to heat the chemistry to the proper temperature. When developing color negative film, the developer needs to be at least 102 degrees Fahrenheit. And the best way to do that is by setting up a water bath. Now this can take a while depending on the method that you use, but the best way that I have found is by taking a regular kitchen mixing bowl and filling it with enough water to where the developer and the Blix can comfortably sit in the bowl without the water overflowing. This is how I heat the water to create the water bath. There is more than one way to do this than what I'm about to show you, but I have found this method is what I prefer. And what I like to use is a kitchen appliance. This is called a sous vide, and it's actually used for cooking. And the reason why I use a sous vide is because I knew when purchasing this item that I want to buy something that can be used for more than one thing. So in buying the sous vide, I could use it for developing my film, but I could also use it to cook a nice steak every once in a while. As I mentioned earlier, developing color negative film requires heat. And so this is how I set up the sous vide so I can get the proper temperature in the water bath. The number you're seeing here is the room temperature, but I want a target temperature of at least 102 degrees Fahrenheit. However, I'm going to set the target temperature a little bit higher because when I pour the chemistry into the lab box, I want an even temperature of 102 degrees. I'm setting the target temperature at 108 degrees, so once the chemistry is poured into the lab box, there will be an even temperature of 102. Now that I have the sous vide set up in the water bath, I am getting that temperature where I need it to be. I'm gonna let this sit for about 30 minutes because it will take some time for that water to heat the chemistry. And then after 30 minutes, I'm going to take my kitchen thermometer and I will check the temperature of the developer just to make sure that it is where I need it to be. And while I'm waiting for the chemistry to heat, I'm going to use my time and load the film into the lab box. If you're not familiar with this type of developing tank, I have a pretty detailed step-by-step process on what the features are on this and how to load the film into the lab box in one of my previous videos where I'm developing cathanol. You're welcome to watch that so you can see how this works. The next step in the process is to get the timer set up correctly. And developing color negative film requires 6 steps. However, 3 of those steps is the chemistry. First you have the developer, then the Blix, then the stabilizer. It's important to get these times set up correctly so the timer is set up for each part of the chemistry, especially for the Blix and the developer. And you can see here that I will agitate for 10 seconds on every 30 seconds as an interval. And I have my timer set up to reflect that. So you'll see the 20 second and 10, that reflects the 30-second intervals. with the 10-second agitation. And 7 is the amount of intervals that I'll do this to reflect 3.5 minutes for the developer. Now I don't have the timing set up for each process because I need to manually change my timer quickly in between each step as I'm going through the chemistry. So for example, since the Blix will require 6.5 minutes, all I need to do is just quickly change the intervals from 7 to 13 to reflect 6.5 minutes. I'd like to show you a much easier step in getting your timer set up. I usually use an app called Debit, and I use it on my phone, but since I'm filming this with my phone, I'm not able to use the app. That's why I'm using this timer. But when you download this app, all you have to do is select C41, and you can go through every single step and set up the timing in the exact way that you want, and it'll move to each step seamlessly. You won't have to start and stop the timer or change the timing in between switching out the chemistry as you're developing. It's a free app, and so I recommend using this as a very quick way to get your timing set up whenever you're developing. It has been 30 minutes, and the temperature of the developer is at 108 degrees, which is exactly where I need it. The first step before adding any chemistry is to wash the film and bring it up to temperature. So I take a few cups of the heated water from the water bath and I pour it into the lab box. I do about 2 cups of this and I fill the tank as much as I can. And then I will agitate the lab box, so I'm letting that film get coated in this hot water so it can get up to the highest temperature that it can. And after agitating for about a minute, I pour out the water, and I like to use the lid of this water pitcher because different film stocks will produce different colors, and I always like to see which colors come out. So this Kodak Pro image produces a type of green, kind of slimy looking color. Now that the film is washed, next is to add the developer. So I have my developer here and my timer ready to go. And once I pour the developer into the lab box, I will start the timer. And this will be a simultaneous process. And here we go. As I'm pouring, I'm just watching to see how much developer goes into the box. I actually have a line marked on the side of the bottle that will indicate how much developer is in the lab box. And so I've measured that and I know how much is in the box and when I need to stop pouring. That timer's still running. So now I'm going to start agitating. I'm going to agitate the film for about a minute just so I'm getting that film coated in the developer. So every 10 seconds on the 30-minute interval, I will agitate, and I'll do that for a total of 3.5 minutes. At the last agitation period, you want to take the developer and get it ready with a funnel. So once the very last agitation is complete, you'll pour the developer back into the bottle. And then you can put the developer back into the water bath if you have another roll of film that you're wanting to develop. If not, just leave it to the side. You're done with that at this point. Next is to wash the film to get all the developer off of the film before pouring in the Blix. Take about 2 cups of the water from the water bath and pour it into the developing tank. You'll agitate for about 1 minute so you can get all the developer off of the film. After 1 minute of agitation, pour the water out and you can dump it down the sink. Next is the Blix, and it's the same process as the developer, except it's going to be used for 6.5 minutes. And I'm going to start the timer at the same time as when I start pouring in the Blix, so I'm getting the right amount of time that the Blix is on the film. I also have a line marked on this bottle, so I know how much Blix I need to pour into the tank. And after the Blix is in the tank, then I start the agitation period, where I agitate every 30 seconds for 10 seconds. And just like the process with the developer, once the Blix is done, you want to get that funnel ready on the Blix and pour it back into the bottle. Next is to wash the film one last time. Using the lid, I prop the developing tank on the edge of the film, and I can take off the lid at this point because the film has been developed. It's hard to tell, but there are images on here, which is really exciting. And using the water from the water bath, because it's still heated, you'll pour the water into the developing tank, and since the tank is propped up on the side, it'll just pour out. You'll agitate the film at the same time to ensure that the Blix is being totally washed from the film. The last step in the process is to add the stabilizer. The stabilizer will sit on the film for 1 minute, and you'll agitate continuously during that 1 minute. And after that 1 minute, you will pour the stabilizer back into the bottle. And now the film is totally developed and ready to come out of the developing tank to be hung to dry. What I use is a regular clothes hanger with clothespins to dry my film. I call this my film hanger on a budget because that's really what it is. There are actual film hangers specifically meant for drying film. I use what I have and this works well. I'm wearing gloves to remove the film because the stabilizer is a chemical and I don't want it to get onto my skin. Slowly remove the film from the spool and inspect your images. This is the best part after developing, is just really getting a good look at what you created. The very last step is to hang the film using your hanger so it can dry. And what I use is the frame of a door to hang the film. You want to make sure that you're clipping the film where the clip is not touching an image, because during the drying process, that clip will leave a mark and you don't want it to ruin any of your images. Use a clothespin to weigh down the film so it dries flat and it doesn't curl in the drying process. And the same thing with clipping the film at the top. You want to make sure that you're clipping the film at the bottom where an image is not being covered by the clothespin. Let the film hang to dry overnight or for at least 4 hours. And for me, I usually develop in the evening, so my film is ready to scan in the morning. Here is where I purchase my C41 kit. I use a company called Film Photography Project, and they're very helpful in providing a variety of film, chemistry, and film accessories for anyone who's looking to do this at home. The kit that I'm using in this video costs $32.99. That does not include tax and shipping, but you can estimate it to be about $10 to $15 added onto that overall cost. And here's the sous vide that I'm using in the video for the water bath. I purchased mine from Target and it was on sale for about $110. The Film Photography Project also has their own heater that can be used for a water bath. Theirs is called the Heat Helper, and it's very similar to the sous vide. I wouldn't expect this heat helper to be something to use for cooking, but if you're not looking to spend $100 on a sous vide, Film Photography Project sells a heat helper for $70. That was the process of developing color negative film using C41 chemistry. I hope this video was helpful to you in your learning process with developing your own color negative film. Eclaster film exists to inspire and make connections, and so I hope to inspire you to try this for yourself. It's really not as hard as it looks. It's not as scary as it is. And then also, you know what? If you make mistakes, you make mistakes. That's the learning process. I've done that. I've made several mistakes in this before, and I've learned along the way. So I just encourage you, try this for yourself. Go out and buy some chemistry. You know how much it costs. You know where to get it. You've seen how to load the lab box. You've seen how to develop this stuff. So just try it for yourself if that's something that you have a desire to do. If you have developed your own color negative film, please share your experiences in the comments. I love reading about the different things that you've tried, what people have done incorrectly, what's been done well, and it's also a really great way to connect with other people in the film community. If this video was helpful for you, please click that like button. Also, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you can stay tuned on all the content that I create regarding film photography. This is Eclaster Film. It's always a pleasure sharing my knowledge with you. Thank you for watching.